Mami, what has COP26 established so far as UNDRR are concerned?
I think COP26 has established that climate emergency is a reality. If we do not act now, if we do not act urgently, climate and weather related risk will continue to rise and challenge the resilience of our societies. I believe that we are at a crossroads. Climate emergency is undermining our ability to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, including the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. We came to this COP with a set of clear calls for action in three critical areas. The first area is that we need to dramatically enhance our ambition and finance climate adaptation. What this means is that the 100 billion annual promise for financial support towards climate action needs to become a reality, and the balance between mitigation and adaptation has to be a share of 50-50 in order to support the developing countries which are experiencing the impact of disasters monthly, if not daily. Now, the second point is we need to drastically enhance support to avert, minimize, and address loss and damages. This needs to be done through financial but also importantly technical support to developing countries, which is about their database around loss and damages, their access to risk assessment tools. And the third point that we came with is that we need to accelerate predictable and risk-informed financing and investment. Now, I'm very glad to say that I have seen and heard that our message is resonating here in Glasgow, from the negotiation rooms to the plenary halls and in various pavilions in the blue and green zones.
So you've made progress, you think, on each and every one of these messages that you came here with?
I believe so, yes. So if I may go into the first crucial issue about adaptation. So $350 million committed to the Adaptation Fund. That is the largest single figure that we have seen ever. And I do believe that this is a result of our collective call for the importance of adaptation. We have seen other things as well, which is the commitment of leaders to shift the focus to locally led adaptation policies and decisions. This is very important because we know that when disasters strike, it is the local cities and communities which are the first responders. Hence, they need to be the ones that lead the adaptation agenda. And I am also happy that we are having a better understanding of the global goal on adaptation, including the understanding of what should be the methodology, the indicators, and the metrics.
What about loss and damage? Because that has obviously been one of your main messages and concerns.
Yes. So, loss and damage has become a strong focus at this COP. We're not surprised about it, are we? Because loss and damage is about the impact of climate emergency on developing and vulnerable countries, and we are seeing that with both extreme and slow onset disasters. Now, what I believe that we need to emphasize here is that for UNDRR, the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, that is at the core of the issue. And we need to make sure that when we talk about loss and damage, we're not talking about anything abstract, that we need to have the national adaptation plans risk-informed. We need to see that the national disaster risk reduction strategies have the climate risk indicators embedded, which means that we need to look at the whole risk landscape from a comprehensive way, looking at what the climate risk is, what are the vulnerabilities, and what are the exposures on the ground, so that all governments can have what we call risk-informed policies in every sector to, again, as we have been trying to move forward, avert, minimize, and address loss and damages. Now, I believe that this has been done, and there was a recent report issued by OECD on the loss in damages from climate change. And what the report said is that we do need to enhance our efforts towards adaptation and fast track the implementation of the Sendai framework in order to come to better addressing the issue of loss and damages. Now, one important issue is how can we enhance technical support on this to the developing countries. And we believe that the Santiago network should be the mechanism to coordinate technical support to developing countries for loss and damages. And we are very encouraged that there has been steady progress in the negotiation around the Santiago network.
You cannot talk abstractly either, of course, about financing. So it's a great concern across COP26. So how was that developed?
So that has been developed as well. There are member states who have made additional commitments, financial commitments to support climate action, including adaptation and disaster risk reduction. I would also say that we are extremely encouraged by the response by the private sector. 450 financial groups coming together, committing to net zero emission, but also putting on the table large sums of funding for the coming decades in order to support climate action. And of course, when we talk about the private sector, we are looking at the many innovative technologies, solutions that they are bringing. This is very important because when these new technologies and solutions are combined with the policies of the governments, then we are going to see an acceleration of climate mitigation and adaptation.
So finally, what are you taking from COP26? What are your conclusions?
So first of all, we can say that risk and resilience has now become an integral part of the climate discussion. This is based on the reality, isn't it, that climate risk has led to so many disasters impacting the lives and livelihood of people. I think that there is a much stronger focus on adaptation, which is again a reality that we need to face, and this is, as I have been mentioning, closely integrated with the implementation of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. So these two things, risk and resilience, adaptation, become front and center, is encouraging. However, my conclusion is that we cannot be complacent, because the reality is that the pace, intensity, frequency of disasters is definitely outpacing our efforts. So we are on the right direction, but we need more to come out, not only from the annual COPs, but everything that is happening in between the COPs. And we do need to make sure that while we mitigate for the future generations, we are also adapting better, we are building resilience better for the current and future generations as well.